right, send it in.
And welcome, everybody, to episode 10 of the Puckett Send It In podcast. We've now hit double-digit episodes of this show, but it's still been a hot minute since our last recording back on game one of the series. So a lot has happened, Alex. We were hit with a gut punch in game two. We were hit with an uppercut in game three. But game four went in our favor, and just like that, it's a brand new series, a best of three to decide who moves on to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it was getting frustrating. Panthers head coach Paul Maurice said it best after the game three overtime loss. He said that you're kind of grumpy after any overtime game in the playoffs, win or lose. I was surprised to hear that. We weren't there. I wish the reporter, I understand why the reporter didn't ask the follow-up question, but I wish that they had asked Paul Maurice, why is that? Why do you feel grumpy even after a win in overtime? But who knows? Either way, the Panthers came into this series having won 11 straight overtime games in the playoffs, dating back to 2 years ago. Remember, they had that magical run against the Washington Capitals to win their first series in 20 years. And then the Panthers go off and rattle off 2 overtime losses against the Rangers this series, which was very frustrating. And the players were frustrated. Paul Maurice was frustrated, and he said that, the Panthers had to come in with a little bit of a growl in game four, and I think they did. And I don't know about you, Jake, but when the Panthers couldn't score again in the third period yesterday, I was getting a little bit nervous because I was worried that the Panthers' overtime magic was done. I was like, oh, here we go again, 3 straight overtimes.
To sort of quickly recap games 2 and 3, they were low scoring. Actually, I take that back. Game 2 was low scoring. Game 3 I still don't really know what game 3 was. It was weird. But
game 3 was weird because if you told me that the Panthers got 4 goals past Igor Shesterkin, I would have thought that they won easily.
Yeah. So with that said, yeah, game 2. And again, so many Panthers fans have pointed out that had things gone right for Florida in overtime, like you said, even before that, they could be leading. Not only would they have led 3-0 prior to yesterday, that could have been the sweep, and Florida would have been moving on to the Stanley Cup right now. But that's just not the case when you have a goalie like Igor Shesterkin that is playing some of his best hockey in his career, keeping an absolute onslaught of shots from the Panthers out of the net, which is absolutely surreal. I think there's no doubt about it at this point. Shesterkin is the best goalie Florida has seen so far in the postseason, at least for now. Better than Vasilevsky, better than Swayman. So, with that said, game 2, okay, it went. I don't know about you, Alex. I feel like game 2, yeah, it sucks. Florida didn't get the win, but I still had the feeling like, okay, they did what they had to do, right? They had to take one game in Madison Square Garden, bring the series back to Sunrise, and capitalize there. Game 3 is absolutely a way more disappointing loss because, by all accounts, it felt like it was Florida's game to win. Statistically, it looks as if New York was an AHL team that had no business being there, considering how many shots Florida was getting on them, but they still came out with a win. So is all of this coming off of Shesterkin's energy that he's bringing to this series? Because I feel like if you take Shesterkin out of the equation, New York does not have a whole lot that they're really riding high on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that Bobrovsky, for as good as he's been this postseason, didn't really look great in game 3. Like I said before, I kind of alluded to it. I said, if you get 4 goals past Igor Shesterkin, you usually win that game.
Yeah.
And Bob let in a few uncharacteristic goals in game 3. I think only one of those goals was on a high danger chance. I think the other 3 were on medium danger chances, something like that. It was some soft stuff. And even going back to game 2, the Barkley Goodrow game winner in overtime. I don't know what you saw in that play, but what I saw was that there was no one between Goodrow and Bobrovsky in the slot. It was just a very basic shot slot. It was expected. Everyone knew that the shot was coming. And, an average goalie maybe doesn't make that save, but Bobrovsky has shown that he's very good again these last couple of years. And so I was surprised that he let that goal in game 2. Game 3 was going to really let off multiple medium danger chances. I think that's really the difference. Shesterkin's playing on his head, and Bobrovsky's kind of playing merely above average.
So, yeah, like you said, that was a tough shot to deal with in game 2, though. That was unreal. Not to mention that first goal in game 4, which I guess we'll get into now, because again, we have to talk about the now to get you ready for tomorrow's pivotal game 5. The first goal of the game for New York was a bar down, which is already a little bit disrespectful considering what has gone on in this series. That the first goal in the game is a bar down. After that, Florida actually took the lead. After that slap shot, and then in the third period, New York ties it up, sends it to overtime, and I think you had alluded to this already. I feel like the collective hive mind of Florida Panthers fans who watched that game and saw they go to overtime felt like a disturbance in the force that we've seen this movie already, that this once great team in overtime has fallen victim to very questionable decision-making and silly mistakes such as the breakaway in game 2 and letting the Rangers player right in front of Bobrovsky with not another Panther within a mile of him in game 3. Or I'm sorry, game 3. So that was not the case this time. And instead, Florida's power play, which has had its ups and downs in the season, once again looked solid in game 4, and it was Reinhart. Shocker. It was Reinhart with the game winner in overtime. And thank God it was almost immediately as overtime. It was just a minute in, and Florida got the job done instead of having to make us wait almost a full overtime period for a result. So it's Reinhart that gets the slap shot for the winner. And now I feel like the Panthers fan base has dodged a bullet, right? Because we've seen how good New York can be in overtime. So it's nice to see that for a change, Florida was the aggressor and they were the capitalizer, if you will, on the silly New York mistake, that hooking penalty.
Yeah, definitely. It was nice to see Sam Reinhart back on the scoring sheet on the power play. He hadn't scored on the power play since game 4 of the Tampa series. And that was the only goal that he had scored at all until game 3 against the Rangers. He scored 2 power play goals and then obviously got the game winner last night. So it was nice to see again that he still got it. I knew he never lost it, but you wondered if maybe the league had adjusted to him. But it's nice to see that the Panthers coaching staff and Sam Reinhart and that entire first power play unit was able to adjust to the adjustments.
By the way, that hooking penalty on Barkov, that should have been a penalty shot, right? There's no other way of looking at it. That felt worthy of giving Barkov a penalty shot and a chance to send the game home then and there. I don't know about you. I felt like that should have happened.
It did. I don't know. It looked 50-50 to me. I could see the argument for both sides. I'm just glad that they scored and it doesn't have to be too much of a talking point. Thank God. I think it was a good penalty to take. I think that as good as Shesterkin is in the crease, I think that anytime Barkov has the puck right in front of any goalie, you as the defender should do whatever it takes to make sure he doesn't get a shot off. I would have called. I don't think I would have called that penalty. I know you're not supposed to do this, what I'm about to say, but I think there does have to be some sort of game management where, like, the game shouldn't, unless it's egregious, of course. The game shouldn't end on a penalty shot. I'm glad that the Panthers got the chance to go on the power play, but it's also easy for me to say that considering Reinhart scored 13 seconds into it. So who knows?
On the topic of the power play, and obviously we've seen Florida struggle at times. We're very reminiscent of their power play inefficiency in last year's Stanley Cup playoff run. But regardless, games 1 and 2, Florida could do not much with the power play, thanks in part to New York's very good penalty kill group. However, game 3 and 4, I feel like it's kind of shifted, Alex, where Florida is getting more and more and more goals off of the power plays. Meanwhile, their penalty kill continues to be absolutely undeniably one of the best parts about the Florida Panthers, considering how many penalties they tend to give up and the fact that New York has, I think, only scored a single power play goal on the Cats so far. So it's nice to see them rebound after game 2 these past couple of games with how good their power play has been.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul Maurice said, sometimes it's a matter of being aggressive. Sometimes it's a matter of being patient. They've definitely come a long way from allowing a shorthanded goal in that 4-minute double minor to Jacob Trouba. They looked pretty good, especially the first power play. The first power play of game 4, where they got 4 shots off from their first power play unit just in the first minute of the man advantage. I thought they looked fantastic. Watching the film, I can't really pinpoint what exactly they've gotten better at, other than just simply playing looser and less nervous and less tight.
Sometimes it's just what you need. Instead of playing protective, you just need to send your guns in and just hope and pray for the best. And you know what? That's kind of been Florida's memo this regular season, and they're going back to it here against New York. And it's so far, it's done wonders for them. Setting up a game 5 tomorrow at 8:00. I'll say it now, Alex. I don't like these 8:00 puck drops. I wish they were 7. You can give the 8 or 9 to the Western Conference games.
I'm actually cool with the 8:00 puck drops. I think what your problem is that they're not really 8:00 puck drops. They're 8:20, 8:25.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's what. Still, I prefer, because again, there's been a lot of different times in which Florida has played hockey in the regular season. I feel like the 7:00 puck drops were the best. The game ends around 9 p.m. You drive back home. It's not complete. It's not midnight just yet. Regardless, getting sidetracked here. Some problems we saw in game 4 continue to be Florida's, and again, New York is really great at picking your pockets, both city-wise, because New York is an expensive city, as well as the Rangers team that's really good at forcing takeaways. With that said, the Panthers were sloppy at times. 17 giveaways is not a good stat compared to New York's 12. I feel like there's been a good chunk of New York goals scored against the Panthers that have come off of breakaways by the Rangers. Obviously, the overtime winner in Game 2 comes to mind. But still, I would like to see Florida not commit as many penalties as they have been. Granted, we were just talking about how great Florida's power penalty kill has looked, but I feel like Game 1 was when they really showed their resilience and, or I should say, resistance to committing the silly penalty, and it really hasn't gotten much better since then. Granted, 3 penalties is not a lot to commit, but against a team with a notoriously good power play as New York, that's still a lot. What's your take on that, Alex?
Yeah, I think I don't think they've been taking too many stupid penalties. I think that when they are on the penalty kill, they've looked pretty good. The Panthers' penalty kill and the Rangers' penalty kill are pretty much at the same clip throughout the regular season, and they've been doing a pretty good. Both teams have been doing a pretty good job of it in the postseason. So I think it's fine. I will say that based on the zone time that the Panthers are getting so much more zone time than the Rangers. So I guess when you look at it like that, where you consider the Panthers have the puck more often, and yet they're still committing, around the same amount of penalties as the Rangers. You would like to see less, of course, but overall, I think it's fine.
Let me ask you a very interesting question here, Alex. You take away Shesterkin from the New York Rangers. Who is the best overall player left on that team right now? Is it Trocheck? Is it Lafreniere? Is it somehow Rempe, who's just been a bully this series with the amount of time he has been on the ice?
He almost scored last night. He almost scored late last night, and I would have thrown my computer across the room if Matt Rempe scored the game-winning goal.
So who would you say is the most important player on the Rangers aside from Shesterkin? Would you say it's Trocheck or Lafreniere?
I'll give you two answers, both for different reasons. I think the best player so far, the one that's been the most important, is Alexis Lafreniere. And I want to apologize to him for making fun of his own goal in Game 1, because all he's done since then is make us eat our words and tell us to shove it, because he's scored 3 goals in the last 3 games. He scored 2 in Game 3. He's all over the ice. Even when he's not scoring, he's creating chances for other guys. So I think that he's been the guy keeping them in this on the offensive side. On the other end of the spectrum, the guy whose absence has been the most important, not that he's been absent, but he's playing like he's absent, is Mika Zibanejad. He hasn't really done a whole lot. Hasn't done a whole lot since, I want to say midway through the Carolina series.
Right.
He's a guy who he's a guy that the Rangers rely on a lot in those top lines, and he hasn't been giving them a whole lot.
Okay. I lost my train of thought, but by the way, I was just looking at this this tweet from Jameson Olive talking about the beef that Tkachuk had with Kreider throwing his mouth guard away. Tkachuk said he actually got his mouth guard back, and he said, quote, "I told him it was the best play he made all game," end quote. That's wonderful. Tkachuk, I mean, as far as
and he's correct. Sorry, I think I'm on a little bit of a delay, but he's correct. He's correct, because Chris Kreider last night. This is hilarious. 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points, 0 shots, 2 giveaways in 19 minutes on the ice. He was doing. I do the same thing at Pines Ice Arena. Just skate around and a nice little date night, just listening to some music, just real open skate kind of stuff. Just doing cardio out there
on the ice. We don't have an ice skate here in Homestead, to my knowledge, so I can't relate, Alex. So, but
how far is Kendall Ice Arena?
Like, I'd have to Google it, but just Kendall in general is like a 20-minute drive from here. 15 if it's a weekend, if traffic is light, I guess. But yeah. So that's pretty much your story. I mean, it's nice to see Reinhart, who was on a slump in the beginning of the series. He's getting his goals again, and obviously the game winners, which he's become famous for in the regular season, getting those overtime game winners or just power play goals in general. He's getting back on track. Barkov has been Barkov. I mean, what do you want me to say? He's the everything man for this team, and he still continues to be that. Maybe stat wise, his numbers don't impress many people, but it's what he actually does on the ice that, I mean, the ESPN crew, which I think it's a love-hate relationship at this point with some of the things that they like to say, they acknowledge that Barkov is one of the better players on the ice right now in the NHL for what he brings to the team. And then Bobrovsky had another great game. Obviously, he's deserving of. I think it was either the first or third star that he got in Game 4. I think maybe it was the second. Yeah, okay, he got 2 stars for 21 saves. Another solid game by him. Florida was clicking on almost all cylinders in Game 4. It's just that they're playing a really tough opponent, obviously, in the New York Rangers. The last thing I want to say generally about the matchup, Alex, and a lot of people have said this online, on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, is that this feels like the, I believe, what was it, the Blackhawks/Kings Eastern Conference Finals from a while ago, in which whoever's winning the Eastern Conference Finals is probably winning the Stanley Cup, because I don't know if either Dallas or Edmonton could keep up with what New York or Florida could bring both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, I think I agree. This is the tightest series I've seen in the playoffs so far, not just for the Panthers, but for any other team. It kind of feels the way that the Panthers versus Hurricanes series went last year, where every single game is being decided by a goal, except the real frustrating part is it's not all going in the Panthers' direction. Remember last year, there was a couple of overtime games. There was
a couple of Kachuk winners.
Exactly. The very last second with like 4 seconds left. So it was fun, but we got lucky because every single game the puck went our way. So
and I feel like Florida fans in general are just used to that at this point. That they heading into this series, they were used to the fact that all right, if the game's going into overtime, Florida's going to be that team, and they were again led onto that in Game 2 of the first round against Tampa. It still kind of blows my mind in retrospect that there was not a single overtime game against Boston, but I digress. I guess we were fortunate retrospectively that did not happen. So
yeah. Here's the thing: like a 3-1 series deficit for the Panthers, I still trust them in a vacuum. But then you start to think of the math of it all. Can they beat the Rangers 3 times in a row? 2 of them being at the Garden. I know the Panthers are a good road team, but that's a tall order. Had they gone down,
I don't think obviously the players themselves aren't scared at this point. They took a game. They took a pretty well-earned game in the Garden already. And yeah, like you said, they're the road team. They're the team on the road that you really have to worry about when you're hosting, because that's just sort of what they pride themselves in, and good for them.
Yep.
So yeah, 2-2 series definitely, and again, another obvious thing to say, but it really pays in the long run. New York really disappointed that they couldn't get that overtime winner yesterday, because like you said, a 3-1 series lead would be daunting even for a team like the Panthers to get by. Because now that it's an even series, I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Florida's favored for Game 5 tomorrow. They are the favored team to win on the road at Madison Square Garden tomorrow at 8 o'clock on ESPN.
I never thought I would see that. Never thought I would see that.
No, minus 125, by the way. I don't exactly know how that betting system works, where it's the minus 100s, plus 100s. I'm more used to, like, the minus 1.1 and a hook, 2 and a hook, I digress. So, I mean, what does Florida have to do tomorrow to make sure that they don't let New York take the series lead? Don't give up, kind of like in Game 2. Don't give up a really early goal that gets the crowd.
No softies.
Yeah, no softies, no breakaways, and do what you're kind of doing, which is limiting the penalties. And I'm getting tired of overtime games. If you're going to win, at least have the lead with a couple minutes to go, maybe nab an empty netter, and then we can all feel really good about ourselves. Because I don't know about you, but really don't want to record Puckett, send it in podcast episodes when it's 11 or nearing midnight after a long game full of overtime drama, which is unfortunately what we got in Game 2. So, oh yeah, and don't let New York be the aggressor when it comes to physicality. I know they have players like Rempe that are known for that, but dang it, you got players like Bennett who can match him. So be physical, but not too physical to the point where the refs have to blow the whistle. Which is which is, I guess, a really hard thing to do. Now that I say that, I mean, who needs to be the hero tomorrow? I don't know. I'd like to see Verhaeghe get one tomorrow. Kachuk go back to scoring some absolutely insane goals. If it does go to overtime, which I know you and I are both praying it doesn't, Kachuk could be another player to look out for in overtime, aside from just having to rely on Reinhart, which hasn't been bad this season, but it also hasn't been great so far in this series against the Rangers. Any final thoughts about what we should expect tomorrow, Alex?
No, I think you're spot on. I think that Bob has to be on top of his game. I think the Panthers. I'll say 2 things that I've liked so far that the Panthers have been doing. That if they continue doing it, they'll come out on top. First thing is they're not getting out physicaled. What's the word I'm looking for? They're not being outmanned by the Rangers. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Rangers are very good at being aggressive, and they're being aggressive in this series. But the Panthers aren't getting beat up. This isn't the old days. Remember the old days where we were just getting beat up all over the ice by the Lightning back in their heyday a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Credit to the Rangers. They've been playing real aggressive, but so have the Panthers, and I don't think either team has really had an advantage over the other in terms of the physicality. Second thing is the Panthers have been doing a really good job of not getting frustrated when they can't get pucks past Shesterkin. They just continue their game plan. I haven't seen them really stray too much from their game plan. I've seen them make adjustments, but I haven't seen them abandon their systems just because they're not getting it past Shesterkin. And I think that has been paying off for them.
Shesterkin's due for a bad game, right? He's due for.
Well, that's the problem. He had a bad game in Game 3, and the Panthers wasted it.
No, I'm talking about a really bad game, like one where he needs to get pulled. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he's due for one, or maybe I'm just being delusional because that's how good a goalie Shesterkin. It's crazy that he wasn't nominated for that award. What's it called? That postseason goalie award?
The Vezina Award.
Vezina, there you go. He was not nominated.
I think Mark Hockman or was it Channing Crowder called it the Vezina Award? It's the Vezina Award.
It was Bob as well as a couple of other guys who have been, I think.
It was Bob. It was Connor Hellebuck, and I believe it was Thatcher Demko from Vancouver.
Shesterkin, I don't know. I feel like
he was okay this year. He was just. Go ahead, Jake.
No. You go ahead.
He was merely above average this year during the regular season. He wasn't his usual self.
That leads
at least in terms of the raw numbers.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. But that leads me to this idea, or what I think should happen, is that they should really announce these award winners after the Stanley Cup Finals, so that obviously the games that matter the most are in the postseason, so that the postseason players, performers, I feel like that matters more than what you do in the regular season. If that's the case, then the Shesterkin should absolutely be in there. I digress. Alrighty then. So that's your look ahead for Game 5 tomorrow at 8 o'clock, ESPN. You have to listen to the I would say not very good ESPN crew, Alex. I'm sorry. I don't really like him that much.
Yeah, I know. Last night's call was pretty good.
Yeah.
Last night's call was pretty good. But I normally agree with your sentiment. I think TNT is amazing.
Yeah, especially now because they have, Wayne on at the table. And obviously, if Wayne talks, you're going to listen because he's the Wayne. So, anyway, there's another game going on right now. It's game 4 between Dallas and Edmonton. The Stars lead the series 2-1, but they're trailing 4-2. It's currently second intermission, so that should be fun to watch. Dallas could sort of do what South Florida tried to do last year with their NBA and NHL teams making it to the championship. The Heat and Panthers last year, and this year the Stars and the Mavericks. Obviously, there's still ways to go for both of those. I believe Minnesota forced a Game 5, so they'll have to play either, I guess, tomorrow. And then obviously Dallas is currently losing, so that could force an even Game 5 as well. So are you surprised at all by how that Dallas-Edmonton series is going? I haven't watched a whole lot from that so far, but from what I've seen, I'm not too shocked.
It's exactly what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
It's a very tight series. Both teams aren't really allowing an edge to the other one, going down to the wire, just like Panthers and Rangers are. I mean, seriously, like I guess this is to be expected when you're this deep into the playoffs. I don't feel like playing either of those teams. Not that I'm scared of them. I think that the Panthers could beat anyone left on the bracket, but it's going to be a pain in the ass. It's just going to be a huge pain no matter who they play, and it's going to go long. It's going to go 6 or 7 games. Whichever team comes out of the East, whichever team comes out of the West, it's going to be, if it's Edmonton versus New York, if it's Edmonton versus Florida, if it's New York versus Dallas, it's going to go 6 or 7.
I still feel like I want to play Dallas more than Edmonton.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Just an all Sun Belt Stanley Cup final just to make Northern elitists lose their mind.
And way reduced travel times in between the series. Florida to Edmonton is ridiculous as far as hours you sit on a plane. I don't know. Dallas to Florida to Dallas is a breeze. You know, that's nothing. I think that's the longest trip between two teams in U.S. pro sports and U.S. and Canada pro sports. Otherwise, it's Miami and Seattle. Now it's in this series, it's Fort Lauderdale to Edmonton, which I mean,
yeah,
distance.
That's where that 2-2-1-1-1 schedule really screws you. That sucks.
Yeah. So Edmonton, it's a okay, that's a car ride. It's a 45-hour car ride. I don't think anyone's doing that, Chief. It's just about 3,000 miles. Just about 3,000 miles, which is insane. So regardless, we're still ways to go from the Stanley Cup, but it's getting exciting, Alex. I mean, we're only 2 wins away. The problem is New York is only 2 wins away. This sucks. Why can't it just be
That's the thing.
3-0?
You can't say that we're close because then you have to admit that the Rangers are close.
No, why couldn't Florida just sweep the Rangers, man? Ugh. I hate when everything worked for us. Last year in the Eastern Conference Final. That's still so funny in retrospect how that Eastern Conference Final went out. Yeah. Alrighty, Alex. Oh, we never did a CAT scan episode or CAT scan for Game 4. I guess you got to give it to Reinhart because he did his thing. You know, he got that game winner in overtime. Kind of what that's what we've been waiting for, kind of moment for Reinhart, and it happened. So I feel like a pretty easy nomination for Sammy, and hopefully he keeps it going. You know.
Yeah, I was real happy to see Reinhart, and it was his prototypical goal. It was right in his office, between the 2 face-off circles, right there in the slot. It was a beautiful one-timer from Alex Barkov. Just slams it right in past Shesterkin. It was beautiful. And it was only 3 minutes into overtime. Beautiful.
And it was off the post, too, so it made that very, very nice sound that it's a love-hate relationship with that sound. But when it goes your way, it's one of the most beautiful sounds in all of hockey. When the puck actually goes into the net afterwards. All right, Alex, we have a good one tomorrow. Game 5 between the Panthers and the Rangers. The series is tied 2 games each. That's going to be at 8 o'clock. I should say air fingers in the air, 8 o'clock. So
we'll see you at 10:15.
Yeah, at 8:10, you can probably start popping your popcorn. And then you can get going at like 8:15 to 8:20. Then they'll finally kick off. Alex, do you also scream red during the national anthem, even at home?
Only when I'm trying to annoy my roommate or my girlfriend.
Exactly. My dad hates it, but I mean, so what? You know, come on. You got to be a Panthers fan. You got to be you have to feel like you're at the Amerant Bank Arena and not have to pay $300 to go to a game, and then like $65 parking. I saw. And I can only imagine like a beer is like still $19.
Yeah, beers are about. I think you need to sell stock in order to get beers at that game. They take stock options, and then to park there, I think you have to add them to your bank account like directly. Yeah. You have to give them your routing number and all. That's a huge pain.
It is what it is. Alrighty then, Alex, it was fun. We'll let's watch some hockey tonight as we get ready for the third period between Dallas and Edmonton. That should be fun to watch. And Panthers and Rangers tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Don't miss it. Have a great sleep, and tomorrow we can see hopefully a great ending for the Cats. Until then, have a good night, and let's go home, baby.
Send it in.
I thought that was pretty strong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think obviously it wasn't immediately after the game, but the fact that I put reacting to Florida's Game 4 win against the New York Rangers, I think that's exactly the right caption you need because I don't know, people really love react videos for some reason, even though we're technically not
Which one are you talking about?
The caption for this episode, reacting to Florida's Game 4
Oh, yeah.
win versus the New York Rangers.